Hi, if you're watching this, you're either interested in how you can help make the world a better place, or you're just trying to figure out who is going to contribute to the world um, burning and crushing down. Hopefully, you're the first group that wants to bring positive change and you're interested in how the companies, the brands that we're surrounded, can help bring that change. Obviously, there is a mass awakening that is happening right now. So everybody's kind of discovering how they're supposed to help through their sole purpose into creating positive change in the world. And the brands that I'm going to be talking about today are brands that are very established. They're very successful brands. They have a lot of talented people working for them. They have recruited talents from around the world, and they're global brands. So they have presence in the everyday experience of many people. So they can really shape the tone of a new world that is a lot more positive than the current world. And everything starts with their strategy. And the strategy that they have at the moment is kind of connected to the material world, which is not really aligned with the natural world, but one learns and grows into a better human every single day as long as they choose to do that. So, without further introduction, let's look into the five brands. Stella, writer and light worker, here to inspire positive change. So, what are the five brands that can save the world? Let's first take a moment to acknowledge that there is a split, there is a balance that we must maintain between the material world and the natural world. Obviously, we can't just focus on the natural world. We also must maintain the structures in society, maintain the businesses because they give us structure. They help us co create together, they help us bring our purpose into the physical world, to the material world. But the state of the world today is very much focused on making money, on the capitalism, on supporting the economy. And unfortunately, this is contributing to this spirit of competition and division. The natural world, on the other side, supports the idea of unity, supports the idea of people helping each other grow into better versions. So there's a lot more positivity. And there's this higher perspective that comes from spirituality. There's more knowledge exchange because while knowledge is power in the material world, knowledge is used against other people. It's used to get you to have more power over other people. Whereas in the natural world, knowledge is used as a way to introduce new concepts, to expand your mindset, and to help you better look after your health, physical health and mental health. So this is where we're a little bit out of balance. Our values, our priorities are kind of set based on the big corporations that rule the world. And unfortunately, they are creating this division in some ways because they kind of prioritize the economy over the natural world. And this is not going to end well for us as humanity overall. And the mass awakening split that is happening right now is revealing to us two different agendas. So we have the dark agenda, which again is very much connected to what's on the left side here: materialism, capitalism, economy, competition, and division. Whereas the light agenda supports the health, the knowledge, the spirituality, the positivity, and unity. So there is this idea of self-empowerment, but also working together in unity compared to the material world and the dark agenda of going against each other. Because at the end of the day, the progress that we make is measured in terms of the knowledge, in terms of the wisdom, in terms of the spiritual growth, in terms of the legacies that we leave behind. It's not necessarily about the money that's in our bank account. And the dark agenda is very much focused on that side and kind of creating that division and competition based on what's on your bank account, even if it comes to the point where they have to destroy some of the natural resources to do that. So let's look into the split brought by the mass awakening, the dark agenda and the light agenda. We've got mass media control on the one hand from the dark agenda, and we have freedom of speech from the light agenda. Obviously, if you're surrounded by messaging from platforms that kind of give you the same information, you're going to start to believe there is no other way. And if the freedom of speech is suppressed, there will be no opportunity to discuss these ideas before they're introduced, before they're implemented. And this is where the problem of freedom of speech comes into practice, that these policies are not being put to discussion by the general public. And of course, there's the question of democracy and how much people are educated to make such decisions, to make such estimations, I suppose, of the quality of these policies, where again we have mass media control that has contributed to the stilted growth when it comes to education and our thinking. So, dark agenda, we have synthetic DNA, synthetic biology as the priority. And then on the light agenda, we have holistic living and returning to restoring the the DNA that we have, a DNA that is, self-healing. Our bodies are very smart. It's a very smart organism that can self-heal, self-regulate, self-detox. Unfortunately, we are consuming a lot of food, which is the next point, that is contaminated. So artificial coloring, chemicals, toxins, metals, hormones that are coming from the animals that are being fed to grow faster or bigger, whatever the situation may be. Not into farming or agriculture, but I have done my research enough to know that the meat that we're eating is not of the same quality that it was decades ago. So the benefits of eating meat and being on the carnivore diet are not the same as they would have been 10 years ago, 20 years ago, because of the way that the animals are being treated and the animals are being fed. And of course, farming with all these plants and the genetically modified food, that is also contributing to us being sick and being unwell, where you can start to see how this is contributing to creating jobs and supporting the economy, but it's also contributing to worsening our health. And kind of the dark agenda, which is more materialistic agenda, creates this division between science and spirituality, between logic and heart in some ways, between what the logical mind would guide you to believe and what your feelings are telling you, your intuition. Whereas in the light agenda, we have this union. The light agenda isn't about denying the science, it's about uniting the science and spirituality, which is essentially uniting the intelligent information, the intelligence that we have already discovered, and uniting the self quest for meaning, the self growth journey, the self discovery, your soul purpose. You can only establish your soul purpose on earth while you know how the earth works, how the natural laws work, how sciences work. So the light agenda isn't all about light and positivity and butterflies and rainbows. It's about this quest to figure out why you're here and how you can help, and uniting what the data is showing us, the data from years of research across all sciences. So the dark agenda leads to this kind of war against humans, which is led by these unethical practices designed to get you to spend money, but also designed to keep you making money for the economy. And it's not necessarily contributing to a positive movement in society. It's not necessarily creating positive change. And there's this division, us versus the others, me versus you, which starts in school, to be honest, where we have these competitions where there's one winner and then the rest are losers, or we have two people pitted against each other. You're the winner and you're the loser. And every experience is meant to be a learning experience. It's meant to be an experience that helps you to grow. And this is what the light agenda is trying to do, is to bring people together and get more people to participate in sports, get more people to live actively, but not in a sense where there's competition, in a sense where you are practicing the sports, you are engaging in these games for the social element, for the health benefits of you moving every single day. Because this competition mindset, it starts early on in one's development. And with the current societal structures, it contributes to mental health. It contributes to the division in society where humans go against humans as well, where it doesn't make sense. Yet there's a lot of seemingly innocent industries and parts of the world that kind of contribute to that division. And sports is one of those domains where you can see the division between the different teams, instead of them getting together and appreciating the fact that they have found something that they love, even if they're supporting different teams. We have this unnatural division that is just not advancing us, not helping to advance our growth, spiritual growth, and evolution as humanity. And then if you are following the news, if you're following certain ideas that are being proposed right now, there's this idea of controlled travel. So 15-minute cities is one of those aspects of the controlled travel. Also short-term flights being banned, and different restrictions that might have some supporting evidence that would help decrease the carbon footprint and create an environment that is healthier. But at the same time, you can see that there's a lot of resorts and leisure places built at the expense of removing forests and natural resources that are actually benefiting the quality of the air. So begs the question, is it controlled travel in the name of saving Earth, or is it controlled travel in the name of saving the economy and creating more money-making opportunities? And the Latin agenda obviously has this free movement, which is not to say that the world becomes just one giant country and there's no borders. It's okay to have countries have different identity. It's part of the experience, part of the cultural heritage. It's part of experiencing different things. But the current restrictions that we have are not logical in some cases, in some ways, sometimes. I think what we're seeing in society is that there are people who do not get to have the freedom to explore based on restrictions that are out of their control, whereas we have people that are actually criminals that are allowed to have free movement because they have the funds to open doors to move. And this is where, unethically speaking, the free movement should be more controlled, but again, it's benefiting the economy. So dark agenda, slave to the system, light agenda, learn and grow. It's essentially what everyone that's on the spiritual growth journey, everyone that is with a growth mindset, with this desire to help bring positive change, understands this very well. Every day is an opportunity for you to learn something new. Every day is an opportunity for you to grow into a better version of yourself. And that is how you advance, not just yourself, not just your community, but the overall state of Earth, because we have a collective consciousness as well as our individual consciousness. And it all starts with the education system that is kind of blocking our growth and making us study things that are not necessarily useful. And those that are those that break free from that fixed mindset and start to work on themselves, discover that the answer really is that every day you learn something new, and every day is an opportunity to grow. And sometimes the systems that we have in place block our growth, even in the most innovative companies, because of this desire to keep the control, to keep the narrative. But ultimately, the biggest problem is not the education, it's the damage that is being brought to our own bodies, to our own DNAs, to our own genes, because it's causing us to have infertility. It's causing us to rely even more on the synthetic solutions, on the medicine. And the medicine is not necessarily harmless. There's a lot of side effects to every single pill. I mean, even paracetamol has side effects. The light agenda, children are the future. We are here to raise the children of the future. We're here to support the children of the future. And as the people that are adults, we're here to create these new systems, to create these positive pathways for the new generations. So it's time to break the cycles. Obviously, the education system is not at its greatest place. Obviously, there are certain companies that are contributing to this corporate structure of thinking of the fixed mindset, but The light agenda is all about the balance. The light agenda isn't just about going into nature and just dancing all day long. No, no. It's all about bringing the positivity into the office so that we have these workplaces where we can create ideas, discuss ideas freely. And what you're going to see with the dark agenda is that slowly over time, it brings down your consciousness to a level that is that of suffering, that is that of lack of hope, lack of dreams. Whereas the light agenda is always trying to push you higher in terms of your own belief system, in terms of your own operational system. And the middle ground is always going to be that you're going to fluctuate. That is normal, but the light agenda is always trying to uplift you, whereas the dark agenda is always trying to bring you down. And that is the difference. There's always going to be a balance between the two, but when we have as a society more companies, more structures that support the darker agenda, we're always being brought down. And the percentage is disproportionate, which is what's causing the lack of harmony in the world. So let's look into the 5 companies. The first one is Coca Cola, and that's probably the most successful brand around beverages. And if you look into research, you're going to see a lot of supporting evidence that sodas and fizzy drinks and drinks with a lot of sugar are not healthy for the body. They cause damage to the teeth, a lot of dental problems, but they're also kind of corroding the internal body structure, and your gut health is essentially being ruined with every drink, because it's just not healthy. It's not unnatural. It's exciting for the body. It gives you a thrill. It gives you instant gratification, but it's not healthy. And the way that Coca-Cola can save the world is by providing water, by providing the purified water that has the minerals that the body needs. Because if you, again, do your own research and discover the quality of the water we're drinking, obviously some countries are going to have better quality tap water, even bottled water, but the overall quality is not good. And this is not just because whoever designed these systems wanted to do that. It's also because the ecosystem that we live in gets worse every single year. So that naturally kind of affects the quality of the water. And Coca-Cola has the presence worldwide, has the brand, has the people, has the talent, has the ideas. They're one of the most innovative companies that can really shift the status quo overnight because of their presence, if they wanted to create positive change. Nestle is the other company that kind of connects to the body, the nutrition side, because if you kind of look into what Nestle produces, it has a lot of food that you would eat for breakfast, and it has a lot of food that children would eat. So this would really support the well-being of children, support the agenda of children are the future, and also support the working force, because inevitably, while you're busy with emails and meetings, you need to grab a quick snack. And if you have a healthy snack that isn't packed with sugar, that is, again, contributing to some of the deadliest diseases today. Sugar is the #1 contributor to some of the worst diseases, such as diabetes, cancer, obesity. It's, the data shows it. Sugar is in everything that we eat, and especially in the snacks, especially in the breakfast. And when you start the day with sugar, you're going to experience this rush. You're going to experience the dopamine rising, and you're going to have a crash after that. And in some ways, this isn't even benefiting the economy. This will be a win-win if these big brands started thinking about how looking after the working force is going to benefit the economy and also restore the balance on Earth. And Nestle is one of those companies that has a presence globally, and it has presence across different types of food, not just breakfast and not just snacks, but also supplements for cooking your main meals. If they were to reposition their brand in a way that is a lot healthier, they could, again, shift the status quo overnight. The next brand is Apple, and their biggest contribution would be in educating, in the education sphere. It's not going to be in healthcare, it's going to be in education and supporting this continuous learning. Even if the education system doesn't change overnight, they have the presence, they have the branding, they have the team, they have the innovators around the world that can create these opportunities for continuous learning. They have the offices, they can have these turn into creative hubs, have these communities around the world. And the reason I'm saying education is because if you watch the last video that I did around leadership, the creator of the strategy for Apple was Steve Jobs, and his soul path was all about the higher education. His life path was about philosophy of life, search for meaning, mind expansions, and journey. And he is an example of somebody who managed to align his most authentic self and released all the potential that he was here to release. And this is visible in his strategy for Apple that is continuing to inspire people. And where the education element was replaced with healthcare, I think it's in the last decade where perhaps some of the founders or shareholders kind of shifted, and you see that in a couple of slides, who kind of supports the Apple in terms of shareholders and how they might have contributed to that. But the way that Apple is connected to healthcare makes less sense than it would with continuous learning. Because as I said, if we started eating healthier, living healthier, more holistically, our bodies are going to start self-heal, because we're going to start restoring the DNA structures, which we are effectively ruining by the current state of the food that we're eating. And it's not easy, because when you enter the supermarket, most of the food is packed with sugar, most of the food is packed with artificial coloring and all kinds of things that are not helping us. They're poisoning the body from within, and we don't know about it because we just take the pretty labels and consume them. The next brand, or it's two brands, but they can contribute in kind of creating this partnership for information exchange. So once you have the survival covered with water, clean water, once you have the nutrition covered with your healthy breakfast or healthy snacks, and once you have this educational element where you can support your growth on a daily basis, it's time to start thinking about how you can meet with like-minded people, how you can exchange resources. And YouTube is the perfect platform that can create not only entertainment, but also shared resources where people can teach one another. And we've already seen this with the rise of vloggers and experts taking their podcasts, moving their interviews and media research onto YouTube, because the traditional networks are not really supporting the freedom of speech in some ways, or at least they have a lot of control before all the messages can make it to the top. And Netflix is another platform that has shown us a lot of original content. And the reason I'm using Netflix as an example of all the streaming platforms is because their branding is one of the easiest. It's one of the most consistent brands I've ever seen. And you can easily switch between devices, which means that they have attracted some very talented people that can create the structures relatively fast. And if you look at these brands, all of them are very consistent. All of them are very recognizable. All of them have a brand that is easy to follow, easy to engage. And there are other companies that kind of work within the same spaces, but their brands are not as sleek, so to speak. And this is where branding and getting the people with the right creative mindset makes all the difference. The strategy helps, naturally, but the branding is what gets people to engage with the brands. And these are brands that engage millions of customers every single day. And finally, we've got Airbnb. Let me show the structure. So Airbnb, if they were to reposition their strategy, can help support our return to nature. So all the properties that they have currently on their site, and they're starting to offer different experiences, if they were to restructure their strategy to connect people to nature, to agriculture, to farming, we're going to start to see this shift towards mindset and mindfulness, which could really help bring balance, internal balance, and balance within the world. But this would require shifting the focus from the party destinations, the party flats, and again, starting to think about less about the economy and more about the state of the humans that support the economy. And once again, if you were to look after humans better, they would support the economy in much bigger ways. And I think this is why it's a win-win. And finally, these are kind of the companies that own the the brands, or maybe own is not the right word, but they are the ones that kind of contribute to some of the decisions being made. And if you look at the first three brands, which are arguably the most important in terms of their function, survival, nutrition, and education, they are influenced by BlackRock and Vanguard, which are the wealthiest companies around the world. And they are very closely linked to the World Economic Forum. And if you've watched the interviews from the or the press conferences from the World Economic Forum, you can already tell that they're a little bit on the darker agenda in terms of their support of the material world, support of the economy. And this is where this is an opportunity for these brands that have caused a little bit of damage, to put it lightly, to get their redemption story if they were to choose that, whereas with Netflix and YouTube, we see more of an independent presence, and Airbnb is connected to Expedia Group, which has some links to Microsoft. I'm not quite sure how deep that connection goes. But the three most kind of influential brands are the three brands that are owned, or their messaging is being controlled by some of the wealthiest men of the world. So this is where the control of what decisions are being made is going to be shaped, and it's going to be tied to either the darker agenda or the lighter agenda. But the mass awakening split has already happened, and it's in the process of being finalized in terms of how many people are being awakened, how many people are choosing to go on the left side or the right side. But if you look at the news, if you turn on the news and you see what's going on, the cost of living is increasing. People are being brought to desperate measures to even have a place to stay. So the darker agenda is not sustainable anymore. And I think it's time for the leaders that currently rule the biggest companies and rule the world and make these big decisions to admit that it's not sustainable. And I'm going to leave you with one clip before we finish this that is very relevant from one of my favorite shows.
Had to do it one last time before all this goes away for good. So what are you offering me now?
Nothing. It's over. That was our last idea.
Good. Soon all your precious humans will be gone.
Yeah, it's too bad. Well, congrats, bud. You won. See you in a billion years.
When the humans evolve again, I'll be right back at your throat, you traitor.
I mean, yeah, I know. That's why I said see you in a billion years.
Wait. I'm gonna do the evil speech now.
If you want.
Since the dawn of time, good and evil have waged a furious battle, stemming from... This feels stupid if you're not gonna fight back. How do you not have another plan? You've always had another plan.
What's wrong, Sean?
Okay, fine. Gonna make me admit it. Fighting you is the most fun I've ever had. I mean, you know. You corkscrew your first eyeball and you're like, man, I can't believe they're paying me to do this. By the trillionth, it's like, I should have just been a teacher. And then you go and get the warm fuzzies about your little humans, and something changed. I was having fun again. I'm not sure I'm ready for that to end.
I know, buddy. It's hard when things end. But one way or the other, this is over. The only question is, what's next? I heard your speech at Demon Con. You know this system stinks. You wouldn't have let me try the original experiment if things were working. Let's try a new way, together.
In conclusion, the system stinks. And I think even the leaders that have been very profitable in the last years are recognizing that what they've created is not sustainable. And these five companies, among others, but these five companies, which are leaders worldwide, Coca Cola, Nestle, Apple, Netflix, and YouTube, and Airbnb, well, six companies, they can really make a difference. And I'm pointing to them as the people that the brands that can set an example. Obviously, there's so many other brands that can help contribute, set the tone for a new world where there's more unity, there's more growth, there's more learning, there is more support of the holistic living without taking away the science, without taking away the offices, without taking away the structures. But there's a little bit more humanity at the center of the planning, and not just the economy, not just the money. Hope you found today's video useful. And if you have any other companies in mind that can help bring this shift, leave a comment. And if you know somebody that works in these companies, let's get them to start thinking about changing the world more positively, because the time for this positive change is now. Thank you for watching.